She never imagined her life would change inside a crowded ballroom, under golden lights and the clinking of expensive glasses. Moments earlier, she had walked in quietly, just a calm, self-made woman attending a celebration she wasn't sure she belonged in. But tonight wasn't just any night. Tonight, an $800 million deal was being finalized, a deal that would shift power, silence old insults, and reveal truths no one in that room was prepared to face. What no one knew, not her husband, not his family, and definitely not the cold, sharp-tongued mother-in-law, was that she wasn't just a guest. She was the unseen force behind the company everyone was talking about. And she intended to stay invisible, at least for a little longer. As she moved through the hall, whispers followed her, not because people knew who she truly was, but because she had always been treated as if she were less. Her mother-in-law's eyes narrowed the moment she appeared. There was history in that glare, old judgments wrapped in forced smiles. The older woman stepped forward with a glass of wine, her voice sweet but her intentions sour. She believed she was confronting someone powerless, someone easy to humiliate, someone who would never fight back. But humiliation was the last thing on her mind. She had spent years building herself from the ground up, years creating the very empire they were trying to impress. Yet she stood there silently, letting the older woman speak, letting the room believe what it wanted to believe. Then, without warning, the mother-in-law lifted the glass and tipped it forward. The dark red wine slid through the air, and in that frozen second, everything she had hidden, every secret, every truth, was on the edge of being exposed. And the moment the wine touched her, everything in that ballroom changed. The wine hit her dress, warm and sticky, spreading like a slow-burning stain. Gasps rippled through the ballroom, but she didn't move. She simply stood there, calm in a way that confused everyone watching. Her mother-in-law froze too, the confidence in her smile flickering for a moment. She had expected anger, embarrassment, maybe even tears, but not this silence. Not this unsettling stillness. As the room whispered, she let her thoughts drift back to the start of all this, the journey no one in this family knew about. Years ago, long before she married into their world of expectations and judgments, she had been a struggling intern in a tiny office with flickering lights and second-hand furniture. She remembered working late nights, learning every corner of the business world, slowly earning the trust of people who mattered. When an opportunity came to buy a failing company at a price everyone laughed at, she took it. She worked quietly, investing every hour she could spare, turning it into a powerful brand known for innovation and reliability. No one in her husband's family ever cared to ask where she disappeared to every morning or why she seemed tired but content at night. They simply assumed she had no ambition, no purpose. But she liked it that way. She built her empire in the shadows, while they stayed too busy judging her to notice anything real. Now, standing in a hall full of CEOs and investors, she watched as they whispered about the mysterious owner of the $800 million company, never imagining she was standing right in front of them. Her mother-in-law still gripped the empty glass, unsure whether to apologize or smirk again. But before she could react, someone from across the room hurried toward them, calling out her name with urgency, as if a truth long buried was seconds away from breaking into the open. The wine hit her dress, warm and sticky, spreading like a slow-burning stain. Gasps rippled through the ballroom, but she didn't move. She simply stood there, calm in a way that confused everyone watching. Her mother-in-law froze too, the confidence in her smile flickering for a moment. She had expected anger, embarrassment, maybe even tears, but not this silence. Not this unsettling stillness. As the room whispered, she let her thoughts drift back to the start of all this, the journey no one in this family knew about. Years ago, long before she married into their world of expectations and judgments, she had been a struggling intern in a tiny office with flickering lights and second-hand furniture. She remembered working late nights, learning every corner of the business world, slowly earning the trust of people who mattered. When an opportunity came to buy a failing company at a price everyone laughed at, she took it. She worked quietly, investing every hour she could spare, turning it into a powerful brand known for innovation and reliability. No one in her husband's family ever cared to ask where she disappeared to every morning or why she seemed tired but content at night. They simply assumed she had no ambition, no purpose. But she liked it that way. She built her empire in the shadows, while they stayed too busy judging her to notice anything real. Now, standing in a hall full of CEOs and investors, she watched as they whispered about the mysterious owner of the $800 million company, never imagining she was standing right in front of them. Her mother-in-law still gripped the empty glass, unsure whether to apologize or smirk again. But before she could react, someone from across the room hurried toward them, calling out her name with urgency, as if a truth long buried was seconds away from breaking into the open. The man calling her name pushed through the crowd, his expression tense, almost worried. He was one of the senior executives from her company, one of the few people who knew her true identity, though even he didn't understand why she kept it hidden. His sudden appearance only stirred more curiosity in the guests nearby. Her mother-in-law's eyes darted between them, confusion slowly replacing the hostility she had walked in with. Before he could reach her, her husband appeared from the opposite side of the room. He looked surprised, then embarrassed as he noticed the wine soaked into her dress. But his worry wasn't about her. It was about what people might think. She knew that look too well. He had always been more concerned about appearances than the truth behind them. He asked her what happened, his voice low, almost rehearsed, but she simply stepped back and let him guess on his own. Meanwhile, the executive finally reached her, leaning in to whisper that there was a serious issue with the final contract for the $800 million deal. Something unexpected had appeared, another party had tried to interfere, someone with enough influence to cause trouble. His voice trembled slightly as he added that this person was already in the ballroom. Her heart tightened. She knew exactly who would want to sabotage her work. For years, an old rival, a man who once underestimated her talent, had been trying to regain power in the industry. Seeing her succeed without his help had pushed him into silent resentment. And now, he might be ready to strike. Across the room, she noticed him standing confidently near the group of investors, talking as if he owned the night. The tension in her chest deepened. Her mother-in-law followed her gaze, still clueless, still unaware of the storm she had unknowingly walked into. And yet, the night was far from over. More secrets were hovering in the air, waiting for the right moment to unravel. The air in the ballroom shifted, subtle but heavy, like everyone sensed something was about to happen without knowing what it was. She kept her eyes on the rival across the room, watching the way he spoke with investors as if the entire deal already belonged to him. His confidence wasn't casual, it was calculated. And that alone told her he had something planned for tonight. Her mother-in-law followed her line of sight again, frowning in confusion. She still had no idea why the executive had rushed over, why her daughter-in-law looked so calm after being humiliated, or why a growing number of important guests were subtly watching her instead of the stage. The older woman opened her mouth to say something, but her daughter-in-law gently stepped past her, her focus locked on the man who had tried to ruin her once before. Her husband tried to stop her with a quiet question, but she barely heard him. For years, he had treated her like someone who needed guidance, someone who couldn't make big decisions on her own. And now, as she walked forward with purpose, he looked more lost than ever. He didn't know that his own wife was the unseen owner behind the $800 million deal. He didn't know that the company everyone celebrated tonight existed because she refused to give up. And he didn't know that the biggest confrontation of her life was seconds away. She moved through the clusters of guests, the executive close behind her, whispering updates about the contract issue. The rival had inserted a last-minute clause designed to block the entire agreement if she didn't reveal herself publicly. It was a move meant to corner her, expose her, and force her into a spotlight she never asked for. As she approached him, he finally noticed her. His smile widened, too confident, too sure that he had already won. The musicians began playing a softer tune in the background, unaware they were scoring the most tense moment of the night. The rival stepped forward to greet her, but before he could speak, the head investor tapped his microphone, calling the entire ballroom to attention. Every face turned toward the stage. Her secret, her power, her years of silence, everything was on the edge of being exposed. The microphone echoed through the ballroom, the soft music fading as everyone's attention shifted to the stage. The head investor cleared his throat, scanning the crowd with a seriousness that made her rival stiffen. He looked almost nervous, an unusual sight for a man known for his calm control. Then he announced that there had been an unexpected development in the $800 million deal. A new document had surfaced, one that changed everything about ownership and voting power. The rival's confident smile slipped, just slightly, but she noticed it. He wasn't expecting this. Neither was she. The investor continued speaking, explaining that someone outside the negotiation had submitted legal proof of significant shares in the company, enough to influence the final agreement. The room buzzed with confusion. She exchanged a quick look with her executive, who looked just as surprised. This wasn't part of the rival's scheme. It was something new. Something bigger. For a moment, her mother-in-law even forgot about the wine stain on her dress. She looked around frantically, trying to understand why so many important people were whispering and glancing toward her daughter-in-law. Then the twist cut through the whispers. The investor announced that the mysterious additional shareholder had requested to remain anonymous, but had also asked to be present tonight. Her heart raced. Who would do that? Who held shares she didn't know about? Her rival suddenly stepped forward, accusing the investor of stalling and demanding that the deal proceed. His voice cracked with frustration, exposing that he was no longer in control. But the investor raised a hand calmly and said the deal couldn't move forward until the new shareholder stepped out of the shadows. At that moment, the ballroom doors opened slowly. The sound made everyone turn. A figure stepped inside, walking with measured confidence toward the stage. She felt the tension coil inside her chest. Whoever this person was, they held enough power to challenge her rival, and possibly her too. And as the figure approached the spotlight, she realized the night's battles were only beginning. The doors closed behind the approaching figure, sealing the room in a heavy silence. Each step echoed across the marble floor as the person moved into the light. When the face finally became clear, a wave of murmurs swept through the ballroom. It was someone she had not expected to see. Not tonight, not after all these years. Her former mentor. The one who had first believed in her when she had been nothing more than an overworked intern. The one who had vanished from the business world after a health scare and left everything behind. Or so she thought. He stepped onto the stage with the quiet authority he'd always carried. The rival's confidence shattered in real time as the mentor explained that before stepping away, he had secretly held onto a large portion of shares in the company she now owned. And recently, after learning about the attempted sabotage of the $800 million deal, he had transferred those shares directly to her, making her the majority owner with undeniable control. Gasps rippled across the ballroom. Even her husband froze, struggling to process the truth he had ignored for so long. Her mother-in-law stood speechless, the empty wine glass trembling slightly in her hand. The rival tried to argue, but the investor cut him off. The contract had already been updated, and with her new majority shares, she had full authority to finalize the deal on her terms. The rival's plan collapsed in seconds. His last attempt to block the agreement was dismissed, and he was escorted out as the room watched in stunned silence. She stepped forward at last, revealing herself as the true owner. The applause rose slowly, then grew stronger. But as the mentor leaned in to congratulate her, he whispered something only she could hear, something that pulled the ground out from under her once more. "There's another company," he said softly. "One tied to your past, and someone else is trying to claim it." Just when she thought she had one, a new mystery opened before her. One connected to a part of her life she wasn't ready to face.